Are you wanting to take your kids to a national park this year and you're wondering which one would be really enjoyable for them to go visit? Or maybe you've been to a bunch of national parks and you're just trying to figure out which one might be the next good one to go see. Well, this video is for you. We're going to go through our top 10 picks of national parks for kids, and we'll throw in a couple runners up here at the end too. We have traveled to over half of the national parks with our two daughters. They are ages 8 and 9. We've been traveling part-time in our RV for the last 2.5 years. So we're bringing you actual experience and video footage and everything else from parks where we've actually been to. A couple of caveats, just so you know, I'm only covering parks that are RV accessible because we are an RV family and that's a lot of the people watching this. So we're only dealing with parks where you can get there with your RV. So you're not gonna find the Hawaiian volcanoes or Isle Royale or any of those places on this list. The next thing to know is that we only chose parks where we've actually been to. So Acadia might be awesome and wonderful for kids, but we haven't traveled as far as Maine yet, so I didn't include that on the list. The most noticeable absence would be the absence of all of the Alaska parks, because we have not been to Alaska yet. So there's obviously quite a few in there that probably could end up on a top 10 list, but we didn't include them because we haven't actually been there. And then the last thing is that in the consideration for being a great park for kids, I didn't just look at what makes the park really enjoyable for kids, but I also looked at some of the things for the surrounding areas, like the town, other stuff that's in the area, because your kids might be wonderful and love the outdoor experience and go on their hikes and just be enthralled by the beauty and the dark skies and all of that. And my kids like that too. But at some point in time, they are going to say, "Mom, when are we heading back to the swimming pool at the RV park?" And that's just a reality of traveling with kids. And in part of making it fun for everybody is that we have to realize all the things that the kids enjoy too and try to incorporate that into our trip. So those are my 3 caveats on making this list. I'm sure you might have some different ideas on your top 10 list, but here goes with our top 10. They're not in any particular order either, although I would say that the final spots 1 and 2 are pretty much our favorite parks in general. So here goes with our top 10 national parks for kids. At number 10, Glacier National Park. Glacier is known as the crown of the continent for a reason. It is really spectacularly beautiful with these huge mountain peaks, lush green meadows, and waterfalls all over the place. We were just amazed at all the sights and all the different hiking areas. The Going to the Sun Road is really spectacular. My kids are always in for a good hike and a good waterfall, and there's plenty of that to see. The other thing that we loved about Glacier was all of the wildlife. So we were lucky enough to see a bear. We saw multiple mountain goats. We actually saw the mama mountain goats with their babies, which was spectacular. It really was just a phenomenal experience and beautiful park to visit. I also wanted to mention that we have specific videos on all of these parks, either videos or podcasts on all of these parks, and then videos on the specific locations where we stayed. So I'll link to those below so that you can easily find those and you don't have to dig around for those. But we do have more details on all of those videos. This is just a quick glimpse and a couple minutes to look at each of the parks. Glacier is also a really large park and there's multiple entrances. We stayed on both the east side of Glacier and West Glacier, so I think it's really nice to stay on both sides if you can. We stayed on the KOAs at both East Glacier, which is seen here, and then the West Glacier KOA on the other side. We actually took a few days and went up to Banff also, so if you have time, it's really pretty close to Banff, which of course is not a U.S. national park, it's a Canadian park, but it's really beautiful nonetheless, and you're not that far and could easily make that trip. Number 9, we have Redwoods National Park. So there's 2 parks where you can see big trees, one being Sequoia National Park, but those are the big trees in terms of width. So the girth and the weight of the trees are the largest at Sequoia. The tallest trees are in Redwoods National Park, and Redwood National Park and state parks actually are amazing. You feel like this tiny little ant surrounded by these giants. When they fall down, you have these huge playgrounds of these fallen giant trees, which is spectacular. Here you can see we're at Fern Canyon, which is this amazing canyon just covered in ferns that go up these huge vertical walls, and really spectacular. The other thing that's really cool about Redwoods National Park is it is on the coast. So you have plenty of time to be able to enjoy the ocean, check out the tide pools, and just kind of enjoy two parts of the park, really, the redwoods and those deep forests, and then heading out and being on the coast as well. So those are two reasons why this is a really great park. At number 8, Rocky Mountain National Park. This is our home park, so we might be a little bit biased here. We're only about 40 minutes away, but we love Rocky Mountain National Park. You're talking about going to some of the highest elevations that you can go, the highest continuously paved road in the US. Amazing wildlife, marmot and elk and bighorn sheep, and just all sorts of cool, amazing sights. If your kids have never seen mountains, this is the place to take them. So quick flight into Denver, or you can drive here, and then you can actually drive through the park most of the summer. It's not open year round, but beautiful sights. Fall is actually our favorite time because the elk are in rut, and it's really cool to see them bugling and see them so active. This video right here is actually from June, so you can see even in June you're starting to get the green lush areas and beautiful sights. So plenty to see in Rocky Mountain National Park. Plus the towns of Estes Park and Grand Lake are both really cool. Lots of fun stuff for kids, plenty of entertainment. So when you're done with your day in the park, you have somewhere to hang out, and restaurants and other activities and fun, cool stuff for kids. So really an enjoyable thing to go visit Rocky Mountain National Park. At 7, Everglades National Park. Everglades is great for wildlife. Obviously, you have the crocodiles and alligators here that are all over the place, but there are so many birds and fantastic things to see. Manatee, all sorts of cool stuff. You can do an airboat tour, which is a pretty easy, family-friendly way to see it. You can also kayak into the glades and really explore and kind of be really involved in this surrounding. We're hoping to do that this fall, but beautiful park, really cool for kids to see. My kids absolutely love when we go to the Everglades. At number 6, Badlands National Park. In addition to feeling out of this world and like you're traveling on the moon or some other place, part of what makes the Badlands so cool is that you can actually go off trail and really just explore. And for a kid going to the national parks, one of the hardest things is really having to stay on that trail. But at Badlands, you're allowed to just fully go out and explore. At number 5, Theodore Roosevelt National Park. I have to be honest, we really didn't have high expectations for Theodore Roosevelt National Park, but it turned out to be one of our favorite parks, especially if you're willing to take the time to go up to the North Unit. That's really where you're going to see everything. The bison you're seeing here were in the North Unit. The Little Missouri River cuts through the valley, and the campground is really not that far from here, so we could come over here and kind of play by the water at night. There's the concretions, the big cannonball concretions, which are super awesome. You feel like a little kid in the middle of a Giants marble game. Really spectacular, really cool views and vistas on the hikes. So we were pleasantly surprised. Plus, when you head down to the South Unit, you have the town of Medora, which is a lot of fun, a bunch of entertainment and things for kids and stuff to do down on that south side. They also have the original cabin that Theodore Roosevelt had in this area while he was building his big ranch. You can go to the ranch too. It's a little bit harder to get to, but you can actually visit his old ranch as well. But they do have a bit of a museum kind of set up in the old cabin, and just a bunch of educational opportunities for kids, and really a fun park. At number 4, Zion National Park. This wouldn't be a proper top 10 list without one of the Utah parks in it. And I chose to go with Zion just because there is a lot of activity going on in Zion. Springdale is a really fun town. There's the Weeping Wall, you have the hike up to the Narrows, or even just hiking along the Riverwalk if the Narrows aren't open or your kids aren't quite old enough to do that. Really spectacular sights. It's amazing that there's this beautiful oasis kind of in the middle of the desert area. So really a spectacular park to see. I would have to say that my oldest loved Capitol Reef the most, but I think that overall most people are probably going to like Zion the most, so wanted to include it on the list. Number 3, Yosemite National Park. Even if you haven't been to Yosemite, I'm sure you've seen pictures of it. It's got to be one of the most photographed national parks, if not the most photographed. It's really spectacularly beautiful. You can see those giant granite mountains and peaks there in the background. You can see El Capitan on the left, Half Dome. You have Bridal Veil Falls. So you have waterfalls. There's an amazing educational area in Yosemite Village, so between museums and the art gallery and then kind of an interactive living museum type area. It's really a great spot for kids to learn about the area here. It's obviously one of the oldest national parks, one of the oldest protected areas that we actually have in the country, and just a lot of history and beauty at this particular park. Number 2, Yellowstone National Park. I think Yellowstone is the quintessential national park. If people ask me, I've never taken my kids to a national park, where should we go? I always say Yellowstone. In addition to just having this huge, vast area where the national park encompasses really going on to 3 states. I mean, it's just spectacular. You also have amazing sites with all the volcanic features. So there's 6 different volcanic features that you only have at Yellowstone. So it's really cool to see between the hot springs and the boiling mud pots and the geysers. It's spectacular to see all of that. And even if you didn't have that, you have all the fantastic wildlife. So bison galore, elk, you're likely to see both of those. Maybe you'll be lucky and see wolves because they have those as well up here, but really a spectacular park to see. And at number 1, Olympic National Park. Olympic National Park is really 3 national parks rolled in one because it just has such a diverse area that it covers, and it's almost unfair to compare it to any of the other national parks. You have here where you're kind of seeing this rainforest area and with Solduck Falls, amazing waterfalls all over the place. I mean, we couldn't get enough of trying to view all the waterfalls. And then you can hike up into the mountains, hike up Hurricane Ridge. Here we're at Hurricane Hill, a little bit smoky when we were visiting, but still spectacular views nonetheless. So you can get your feel of the mountains and being way up in the mountains and then being in the rainforest. And then of course you also have the coast. So it's way up at the tip of Northwest Washington, and you get that beautiful undeveloped land and tide pools and all sorts of beautiful scenery that you can see here in the Pacific Northwest, and really a spectacular park. Coming up as top runners-up, we couldn't quite fit them into that top 10 list, but they were definitely favorites of our family. They definitely deserve a mention. We have a couple we just wanted to mention, the first being Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The Great Smoky Mountains definitely have a different feel than you have like in the Colorado Rockies, but they are really beautiful. You have this cool mist around you, a bunch of history here in the Smoky Mountains, of course, because a lot of this was developed area before it was a park. Cades Cove is really cool to check out. We loved that area. Overall, the kids had a lot of fun at this park. Plus, the towns are just fantastic in this area. So Pigeon Forge is like the kids' Vegas strip. It is a lot of fun. There's so much to do, and our kids really love that area. The next runner-up to really mention is Mesa Verde National Park. Mesa Verde was the first national park that was protected for historical reasons, being the dwellings for the ancestral people who lived here. And it's really amazing to see these areas and see them still standing 1,000 years later, and go down and do the tours, learn from the rangers, be able to really experience it and walk into these areas and see what it would have been like to live back in those times. It's also a pretty cool area. There's a bunch of other stuff to see, especially if you have time to really explore the whole Silverton, Ouray area and everything around there. And our last runner-up, giving it a full baker's dozen on the list, Mount Rainier National Park. Mount Rainier is another park that I underestimated going into it, but it is really spectacular. The hikes that you have, the vistas, the panoramic views that you have, the waterfalls that are all over the place, it really was spectacular. And we really enjoyed being able to explore this area and do the hikes. We didn't actually even get a chance to explore any of the museums or educational things because everything's been closed when we went to visit here. But really the hiking is top notch. So Mount Rainier should definitely be on anybody's list, especially if you have kids that love waterfalls. So there you go. Those are our top picks. You ended up with a baker's dozen on that, of places to visit with your family that will be really fun and your kids will really enjoy. Hopefully this was a useful video for you. We are RV Homeschool. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. We try to interact a lot with comments and stuff, so feel free to ask us any questions you have. You can leave your comments below too about the places, maybe we missed something, or maybe there's a place that you really wanted to mention and a place that's great for kids, and please put it in the comments and other people can read that and see why that's such a great park. So I would love to hear your feedback. Be kind. I'm not trying to be insulting or hurt anybody's feelings by choosing the parks that we chose. We just kind of went with the ones that we thought were the best in our opinion, but would love to hear what you have to say. So thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe for more content about RV travel, national parks, different campground reviews, good stuff like that. Thank you so much for watching.